Hey there, happy Friday. So it's been a little bit since my last video. The last one was my PSA submission results, which turned out pretty good. I was pretty happy with it. If you haven't checked it out, you can check out that last video. I didn't have a pickups video last weekend because, well, partially because I was a little bit busy and I was watching the football games, which was fun, but also it was a little bit quiet in terms of the mail, although with a couple of things they'd come in. And this week was pretty quiet as well. But between the 2 weeks kind of combined, I do have a couple of things here. Nothing too crazy, but a couple of additions to the various PCs. My background usually is the same background it usually is. I usually put the little 1,000-piece panoramic puzzle of the Packers and Lambeau Field in the background. Kind of appropriate with the NFC Championship coming up this Sunday as I record this video. And I got Aaron Rodgers here, the flagship rookie, hanging out, and I've got him in the card saver because I think for my next PSA submission, a couple months down the road, I've started putting together what I think the submission is going to be, and I think I'm definitely going to put in the flagship one. I actually had this card years ago. I bought it pretty inexpensively, and it was sitting in a box, and I had been looking for it, actually, because I knew I had bought one, but I just genuinely couldn't find it. I'd like to, at some point, pick up a couple more of the Rodgers rookies. I'm going to hope for the best, but if I was going to do a prediction, I do think San Francisco is the better team, so I expect them to win, but I'm going to hope the Packers are able to pull it out, and I'd like this guy to have a big game, because I think it's going to be necessary if they're actually going to advance. Although, to be fair, even if they did advance, I wouldn't necessarily like their chances against the Kansas City Chiefs if that's who the AFC representative is. Although, rematch of Super Bowl I would be kind of fun. Okay. So now enough of that yapping, but let's do the pickups. So a little bit of different stuff from the PC. So first one, I do have a Vladimir Guerrero card to show off here a little bit. So this is from the Topps Fire 2019, and this is I think it's the Red Flame parallel, but they've got a couple of different ones. But nonetheless, I saw this one on eBay, and I thought it was pretty good, and I like the shine on that. It's a nice parallel to go along with. It's a little bit more fun. It's very colorful, but it's a neat little card to go along with the base rookie that I already have. So that's from Topps Fire, which I think is a retail exclusive if memory serves me. But it is an interesting little set. The back's pretty plain comparatively, but the front with that foil looks great. So that's the first one, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Next two are Mike Modano cards. Actually, the next three are all going to be Mike Modano cards to finish us off. So it is more of a quality over quantity kind of thing. So first we have this one here. So this is from 2019-2020 Black Diamond. So this is the Hall of Fame rings. And this one actually should look familiar if you've seen any of my recent pickup videos because I did get the base card for this. So this is the gold version that is numbered to 50, and it is autographed. It isn't hard signed. It is a sticker auto. You can kind of see it a little bit. But it is a nice looking card. The designs on it's decent. It's not bad. The whole facsimile ring thing is kind of interesting. It is a nice shiny card. And it is a really super thick card, so I have to find a holder for this. I don't happen to have one on me right now. But I do like the fact that the parallel does have the autograph. It's got a nice spot for it. It's a good looking card and a nice addition to the collection, so I'm happy to have that. This next one would normally be the one that I would feature. The only reason I'm not making this my last card that I'm going to show off today is because the next one after that actually has a little bit of a story going to it, so I'm going to leave that one for last. But this one I do like. This is kind of cool. This is from the Cup, and this is Championship Etchings. So this one's numbered to 15. Good looking card, and I think this is 2016-2017 the Cup. So I do like a lot of the cards from the Cup, but this one here stood out to me a little bit for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, you've got Mike Modano holding the Stanley Cup itself. It is called Championship Etchings, and as you can see, you've got a little plate there with Mike Modano etched into it, and I don't know if this light will show it off well, but if you look, you can see a little bit of tarnish kind of on the side and everything. I didn't really make this out when I was looking at it in the eBay listing. I saw this one on eBay and I thought the price was reasonable, so I pulled the trigger to pick it up. I do like cards from the Cup, and it is a pretty limited one for the Modano collection, but like I said, it has the tarnish there, and according to the back here, it says it is a sterling silver nameplate. So I didn't realize it was apparently a sterling silver nameplate. I knew it was a nameplate, but I didn't realize it was actually sterling silver. And the tarnish kind of gives credence to that, which is actually really neat. And part of the reason I picked this one up is because I have a lot of different cards in the Modano collection. But at a certain point, you kind of run out of novelty in terms of things that you don't already have, like 10 copies of in different variations. And a sterling silver nameplate definitely sticks out. I don't think there's too many other things that I haven't already at least acquired some kind of a copy of. I would say a shield card is one that it kind of still eludes me, but it's something that at some point I'll try to pick up. I know that budget-wise I'll have to kind of save up for that a little bit, but this is really a very cool and kind of a unique card collection-wise. I guess it's the first one that has a piece of metal on it. So there you go. Sterling silver nameplate, Mike Modano, championship etchings from the cup. Out of 15. With all that said, that leaves one more thing. It's actually a couple of cards, but I'm going to show off a couple first, and then I'll finish off with the Modano, but I'll do a quick explanation kind of for what this is. This is actually the first of a little team set. These are 97-98 Zenith Silver Impulse 5x7 cards. I've kind of referenced this set before, and I've mentioned before that I loved the 97-98 hockey year. So that year in hockey cards was one of my favorites, and I remember fondly opening up a lot of different packs and different things, especially like from the Pinnacle brands like this. This one I had to do a little bit of research and digging just to remember, because it had been such a long time. I definitely opened this product, and I do have a little story about Silver Impulses, but I'll quickly explain with this one here as an example. What happened is you would buy the packs from 97-98 Zenith, and it came 3 cards to a pack. So you would get 3 5x7s like this. Not specifically Silver Impulses, but you get the base card, which would have gold foil, and then just kind of a plain design, but basically it would look like this. And what the whole gimmick was dare to tear. That was the marketing tagline they would use. What happened is you'd have the 5x7 cards like this, and obviously you could get silver versions, so this is a Silver Impulse. And you also had a gold version numbered to 100, that was the Gold Impulse, and that's the back, what the back looks like. And the Gold Impulse will have the numbering right about here. Otherwise, the main cards would look kind of the same. But the whole point of the Dare to Tear campaign was that you'd get 3 of these cards, and obviously they're not tremendously practical. 5x7s are always a little weird and awkward, but the reason why you had the 5x7 and the whole gimmick behind it was that inside of all the 5x7s, including this one, and the other ones I'll show you, you inside would actually have a little pocket inside of this card. So it's not super thick, but it is a little bit. And inside of this card, you'd have the 2 pieces of cardboard put together they would leave enough room in a pocket so that inside of this card is actually a normal size trading card. And basically, you'd have 3 of these in a pack, and then inside of them, you could almost think of these as 3 individual 1-card mini packs. Now the problem is, and I'll bring up the next one here from this little team set while I'm talking about this, the problem that this created was that you had a bit of a dilemma. So now imagine if you pull like a superstar. So imagine you have a Silver Impulse of, say, Wayne Gretzky or Patrick Roy or Marchand Brodeur, one of the stars of that era. Where you ran into a bit of a problem is that, so you can see that all of these are, obviously intact, but they're uncut. You'd run into a bit of a dilemma, especially if you pulled like one of these as a Silver Impulse, or if you pull, or heaven forbid, you pulled a gold one. Would you dare to tear? And that was the whole marketing tagline. Very, very cute, but at the same time kind of interesting, because you would have a little bit of a dilemma, especially if you had some of the star players. So I think if you got a Wayne Gretzky Gold Impulse, I don't think you were going to cut that one open. But the thing is, you also didn't know what was inside. So the question became, if you did open it, what could you get inside of that? And I remember opening one of these packs and pulling a Silver Impulse. I genuinely don't remember who it was, but I feel like it was a Washington Capitals player, and I think it was a pretty common one. And I made the decision to open it up. And it turned out it actually was a decent decision. And the way that a lot of people did, because obviously you could just tear the card, which was a really risky proposition and obviously would destroy the big card. But one of the ways that you could do it is you could actually just tap the card a little bit to try to push the small card, because it would be hanging around somewhere in here. So you'd have the card inside. If you tap the bottom of it to move the card down a little bit, one thing that you could do, and some people did it effectively, and I started doing that after I realized that you could do that, you could take an X-Acto knife and just make a small incision. And if you were careful and didn't cut all the way through to the other side, because you could very easily do that, it's not that thick a card, you could make a small incision and then actually take the small card out. And it was a way of kind of preserving the big card, because some people still collected them, even when they were open, because as long as the rest of the card was still intact, it was still collectible. It was still reasonable. Obviously, you did damage the card technically, but if you wanted to build a set, that was a way to do it. I'm going to put the Modano here to finish this one off, because that was the main reason I bought the team set, to add to my collection. But the thing was, I opened up the Silver Impulse, and inside of it, I pulled a Z Silver, which I had in a previous Mailday for Modano. So I pulled one of those Z Silvers of Paul Kariya, who at the time was still a very popular player and was still a hot player, and I was able to trade and trade that for some good cards at the time. The point was, that was a risk you took, because you had a Silver Impulse that was already a little bit rarer than the regular base card, the base 5x7. And then, obviously, if it's a lesser player, you're less concerned about it. And Z Silver Paul Correa was, a pretty good pull on the other side of it, but you weren't guaranteed that. You could very easily have opened it up and gotten just a base card of another kind of generic player. Or, if you had a bigger star, you could open it up and get, again, kind of a base common player. So you damage the big card, technically, and then you pull out to get a not-so-great card. But at the same time, it could go the other way. You could pull a Z Gold, which was also out of 100. It was the small, regular-sized version. Or you could pull some Z Teams, which are still fairly popular and were especially at the time. So you had chances, but you took the risk entirely on yourself. And that was the whole point of the whole Dare to Tear. And that's what made it interesting and kind of fun. That's why I wanted to finish off with this team setup from the Dallas Stars. This was the year before they won the Stanley Cup, but it's still one of my favorite teams, and you had some of my favorite players. Modano, obviously, Langenbrunner, and then Joe Nieuwendyk, obviously, and then Ed Belfour. I do kind of miss those days, even though that team was frustrating to watch at times, but it was fun. It was probably the time that I enjoyed watching hockey the most, and these cards do represent that very well. That's why I wanted to finish off with that, even though some of those other cards are really nice. One last thing I'll say about this is I'm not going to do updates on this all the time, but these last couple of additions to the Modano collection bring me up to 1,151 different Modano cards. So I am, like I said, as part of my goals for this year, I am starting to keep track of that a little bit. I do have a ComC order, which I have been assembling, and it's now over 100 cards. I haven't pulled the trigger to send it over my way yet, but it will probably happen, if not by the end of the month, then in February. And then probably a couple of weeks after that, I'll get it because the mail with ComC, the mail they use, is real slow. But I will get it. And then I think that'll be its own video because over 100 card order is going to take a while to get through. But that'll be something that I'll look forward to. One other thing that we'll do as far as the Modano collection is concerned is that I think I have, if I did my count right, I think I have almost 60 different new Modano cards to add to that collection. So that would bring me up over 1,200. But I'll do the proper count once I order it and get the cards in. But in the meantime, this is where I'm going to finish up. Go Packers! Best of luck. I'm going to be rooting for it. I just don't expect it, but I'll hope. There's always a chance as long as you're in and you have a shot to get in there. And I would take a Super Bowl appearance at this point, even if it didn't result in a victory in the end. With that said, thanks again for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free, and I'd be happy to reply to anything you have to say. Otherwise, thanks very much, and we'll catch you in the next video.